next questions are: is Canada accessible, and do we ever shop there? Kind of Canada is accessible. We can access Canada via the ferry system. Um, we would end up ferrying to Haines or Skagway, which is on the mainland of Alaska. We're in the archipelago still. Um, and then drive into Canada. Or we can ferry south and ferry to Prince Rupert, which is in BC, Canada. And it's not as accessible as, say, Juneau or Sitka or um, even Seattle in some cases. So we don't shop there. If we're on our way and we wanted to take a road trip south to Washington State and we wanted to drive through Canada, then we would do some basic shopping. But as far as amenities go, Canada really can be kind of expensive, comparatively speaking to even places in Southeast Alaska. So shopping in Canada is a no-go for us.
Yeah, and maybe if we lived in Haines or Skagway, where you would just get in your car and drive for like an hour and then be in Canada, maybe then it would be you would know what was a better deal or things like that. But yeah, for the most part, nope. All right, next question is how do we get clothes, and do we keep a lot of sizes for Bonnie? So if we're gonna buy new clothes, we order them online. So we order a lot of our new clothes from like Old Navy or like REI or I mean just any online store really. You can order clothes from here. Usually you can find which ones will ship free to Alaska. Um, there are quite a few that do not ship free to Alaska, so usually you end up staying away from them because it just sometimes shipping will cost more than the clothes do, which is frustrating when you spend a long time and then you don't want to pay that shipping price. But for the most part, we are pretty thrifty. So I enjoy getting clothes at the thrift store. We have a really small thrift store here in Cape that I get a lot of clothes at actually. And then when we go out of town, other places, I also like to look at the thrift store. I do kind of stock up on clothes for Bonnie. I sometimes will look on like buy sell trade in Juneau and have my sister pick it up and send it to us. Like if there's like a lot of clothes like in the next size for her. I try not to go too many sizes up, but I kind of have for sure, which worked out in our favor because she grew very quickly. Um, she's right now in 4T, or no, well, she's in 3T, but she started wearing some 4T clothes. So she is just, I think she's kind of slowing down now. We're hoping that it's slowing down, that she's slowing down on how quickly she's growing. Yeah, so luckily I did have a lot of those clothes already kind of like accumulating, but yeah. The next question is how do we keep fresh produce? Mostly just in our fridge. Sometimes we'll freeze it if like it's on the verge of like we can't eat it in time, but yeah, we usually just keep our produce in the fridge and then sometimes freezing.
That's mostly for fruit and like hardy vegetables. For like spinach and lettuce and stuff like that, we just make sure to use it.
Yeah, we try to not let things go to waste, but sometimes it still happens.
Unfortunately.
Sadly.
Next question is: does any of the game meat that we eat taste similar to chicken, beef, or pork? Yes and no.
There are similarities, I guess.
Yeah, there's similarities. I would say moose tastes about the closest to beef.
Yeah, it's
because
not very gamey.
Yeah, because it's not very gamey. It's kind of a relatively easygoing animal. I don't know. It eats pretty similar things, but our venison tastes vastly different. It's kind of hard to explain. If you've never eaten venison, it's kind of hard to explain the taste of venison.
It doesn't really taste like any of those other things.
Yeah, I would say venison tastes probably the most similar to lamb. It kind of has lamb has a very similar game taste that is similar to our deer around here. And then grouse is another wild game animal bird that we eat, and that is fairly similar to chicken. It's got some similarities.
The consistency is very similar
Yeah,
to chicken.
it's like a cross between chicken and turkey.
What do we do with meat to prepare it? Well, we really just take a lot of our game meat and just straight substitute it for what you would use with beef or pork or things like that, or even the chicken for grouse. We really just if the recipe calls for a roast of like a beef roast, we would just put in a moose roast or a deer roast. So we just kind of substitute one for one. And then we also we're gonna actually think we're gonna be doing a video soon of us some of the meals we cook with our with the meat that we've caught. So that will be fun. Keep an eye out for that.
Cool.
Next question is, what is adobo? And I'm gonna have to do this in our cooking video to be seen in the near future. But adobo is it like Filipino?
Mm-hmm.
A Filipino dish that has definitely come into Alaska, and a lot of families make it regularly. It's like some kind of meat, usually chicken or pork, and then you boil it for a long time in like soy sauce and vinegar and with like onions and like pickling spices and things like that. So
and ginger.
Yeah, ginger, lots of different things. And then you eat it over rice, and it's delicious, and we love it. And yeah, very yummy. We got this question from quite a few people because of one of our grocery hauls after our yearly grocery haul. It was, did we already run out of Costco food? No, we didn't run out of Costco food. We are getting low on some things. There is a couple things that we have actually run out of now because it has almost been a year since I did that grocery haul. And so there are things that we're getting low on, but you just kind of stop making meals with those things until you can get more of them. So I actually just ordered quite a few things a few things on Amazon because Costco has not had kidney beans since COVID started. And so we ran out of the kidney beans we had previous COVID. And so luckily I found some on Amazon for, an okay price. And so I ended up just buying some on there, things like that.
A lot of the things like the rice that we bought and a lot of the canned vegetables and
flour,
yeah. Shelf-stable stuff, we haven't gone through yet. That stuff will last us a year or over a year.
Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of the things that we were buying was to add to our already supply of food.
Yeah.
So
we don't like empty the cupboard.
Yeah,
by the time we go and do another shopping haul.
We assess the situation. We see if we're low, and then we purchase food based on the food that we think we're going to need in the next year. So
yeah, and we don't have to wait a full year to go get more. It's just kind of is how the ferry works, how our schedule works. If we're traveling, a lot of different factors go into when we buy food and how much we can buy and things like that. So it just kind of depends on the timing of things.
The question is, how can we afford to live in Cake? Well, there's a couple of different ways. One, we are Alaska Native, and the healthcare isn't extremely expensive for us. In fact, luckily, we qualify for free healthcare. The second thing is I have a fairly well-paying job. The school employs at a pretty high rate. So that is nice, but the biggest reason why we personally can afford to live here is that we had a lot of savings before we moved to rural Alaska. We have been saving things since probably 2015 after our wedding. We've been consciously saving for after college and when we are going to be, living in a place like this where it's going to be way more expensive to get to.
I think what ends up happening is that we are just living a life that we want to live. So we do travel still. We like to travel, um, and but we try to live. We try not to spend a ton of money on just things we don't really need, and that helps a lot. And I think being a little thriftier, buying things at the thrift store, buying things on sale does help also. And um, we aren't like, if we need something, we buy it.
We aren't penny pinchers by
Yeah,
any means.
we're not struggling, and it did help to start off living here with both of us working. That was a big key. We both had master's degrees, and that goes a long way when you're getting a job in education, because that really puts you up on the pay scale. And so both of us having master's degrees and starting off working at the same time helped us save. Like, we pretty much just tried to live like we were still in college, so very frugally, and that way we could save a lot of money. And we tried to just really live off of like one person's salary, and that was kind of for us to realize if I could not work once we had started having kids too. So at this point, we kind of have our savings and have Joe's income, and we just kind of live off of Joe's income, and we don't really go into our savings too much. So it's really nice. And so we're not, I mean, we're not really like gaining a ton of money, but we're not losing money, or I don't know.
Yeah. Ultimately, what it comes down to is financial awareness, being aware of how much money we have and what we can spend on. And the first couple years, we lived off of 3/4 of one salary, and we were earning two salaries. So we were able to put the 1 1/4 salary away into the bank for when Chelsea inevitably stopped working to stay with Bonnie.
You make it work.
Make it work.
Next question is, how do we get furniture? There's a few different ways you can get furniture to Cake. One of the main ways is to put it on the barge. So you could barge it from Seattle, from Juneau, from Ketchikan, from Sitka. I mean, they get their furniture also from the barge, except for Seattle. So a lot of times, like this couch we're sitting on, my mom bought in Seattle when we were there one summer, and then we put it on the barge, and it came here. Now it lives here. But other ways you can put furniture, like if we had a truck and we took it on the ferry to Juneau or some other place, we could like put it in the back of the truck and bring it back on the ferry. So you got most of the furniture in our house. There's a few things that were made that Joe had made or my brother had made, but most of the stuff came in on the barge we had sent from Washington.
The next question is, how do we cope with dark winters? Luckily for us in our area, we get a little bit of daylight.
It never goes completely dark.
The shortest day of the year, it will get bright around 9 a.m. and get dark around 3:30 p.m. So we have light. We don't have a lot of light in the darkest times. But it's hard. So it's hard to cope with the darkness. In fact, like seasonal affective disorder is extremely prevalent in our state, in our community. You really, one of the things that has helped me personally cope with it, because prior to living in Cake and prior to becoming a teacher, seasonal affective disorder is something that I had to deal with pretty regularly. Um, but one of the things that helped me was finding hobbies that I really enjoy doing and enjoy throwing myself into, and taking the time to be out in nature. And, you know, another thing that has helped me recently is having the means to be able to put up food in the summertime, to know that I've done this work to prepare for the winter. It's just like that feeling of accomplishment carries over from the summer into the winter, and that kind of helped me personally as well.
For me, we've lived in Alaska our whole lives, and so you know it's coming, but it always seems like a surprise. It's like every year it happens, you're like, wait, what? But it's also kind of the same way when it starts getting lighter out. You're like, oh my gosh, it's 6 o'clock at night and it's not dark yet. This is so exciting. So, I mean, you get both spectrums of it, and, you know, you figure it out.
Hobbies, do things you love, be around people that you love, which during COVID it's kind of hard. Have a good partner, have a cool kid. Yeah, that's how you do it. Easier said than done, I think. But the next question is, do we plan to homeschool Bonnie? Um, no. I work for the school district. Chelsea has worked for the school district. We know all of the teachers. Um, and as far as K-12 education, we plan to send Bonnie. We send Bonnie to school. We'll probably do some homeschooling before she's old enough to get into school, but
Yeah, like pre-K stuff.
pre-K stuff, that's probably about it.
How did we decide to name Bonnie Bonnie? Well, Bonnie is actually my grandmother's name. And when we were going through and trying to decide what to name, we didn't know what the sex of the baby was going to be. So we had a list for boys and a list for girls. And we just kind of both made our own list and then got together and talked about it. And I think it was on both of our lists, or maybe it was just on your list.
It was on my list.
Yeah, it was on Joe's list. And I was like, that's my grandma's name, right? And he was like, yeah, I know. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, yeah, we can do that. I like that.
Grammy Bonnie is such a sweet person, and we really just like the name Bonnie. You've met our daughter. You know how well it fits, and from the moment we saw her, I was like, yeah, she definitely looks like a Bonnie.
Yeah, we didn't really decide, well, because we didn't know what our baby was going to be. And then we also just wanted to like make sure it fit the baby before we like were committed to a name. But yeah, Grammy Bonnie is just the sweetest soul. And so we are so thankful that she let us name our daughter after her. It's precious.
The next question is, have we ever run into a bear or a wild animal and gotten scared and didn't know what to do? Uh, yeah, I've run into bears pretty close before. But you're always pretty prepared for the inevitability of running into a bear. So you kind of know what to do in a way. The closest experience that I've had to a bear, I guess, was walking behind a friend's house that is adjacent to the woods. And I walked down around near where the garden was, which was behind the house, very close to the brush line, and a bear just popped out, probably not more than 4 feet away from me, 5 feet away from me, and I just sort of like, oh geez, and then that kind of scared it, and it
scared me.
and it turned around, and I kept, you face bears, so you kept backing away as to not like spook it any further or anything like that, provoke an attack. But we've been pretty fortunate, not to get attacked.
Yeah, you're kind of taught that bears are more afraid of you than you're afraid of bears. So when we're just like out and about hiking or picking berries or anything outside in the summertime, you just want to be making noise. So like talking, singing. If you're, I mean, and you don't really, you try not to go places by yourself. Like you usually want to go with someone or a dog or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I personally have not really had really like I've never been that close to a bear. Um and I've lived here my whole life. I mean, I we literally there's a creek. I mean, I guess outside of our door, I've never been openly that close to a bear. There is a video this summer, one of our blogs, where a bear was right out of our door. It was like a little cub that didn't have its mom anymore and had been kind of wreaking havoc in town. But so they do come around. That's actually the next question is, do bears ever come like close to the house? They do. There's a creek like one house past our house that has salmon that run in it, and so the bears are around, and they most of the time kind of have their paths, so they'll like walk along the beach and you just kind of know that. But usually when there's like some problems, it's because of little cubs who have lost their moms. So they'll like get into a yard and climb a tree. They'll be like around the school or getting into people's garbage. It's usually cubs that end up causing the most trouble in town. All right, we're gonna end this Q&A with answering a question that we got a lot because of one of our grocery hauls recently is, what is pilot bread? And pilot bread is a large cracker that's been like dried pretty much, so it's shelf stable. They kind of last like forever. You can just, if they get kind of stale, you can just put them in the oven and like they freshen them up.
No joke. I've had pilot bread, Sailor Boy crackers, that were 7 years past their expiration date, and they still taste exactly like the first day you get them. It's kind of like a McDonald's Big Mac, in the way that it just like never goes bad.
So this is a pilot bread. It's just like a big cracker. It has holes in it. It doesn't. I mean, it's just bread pretty much. And the reason why Alaskans really like it and get it a lot, we pretty much keep the company in working order. Like we buy all the pilot bread. It's really hard to find pilot bread outside of Alaska, and it's not made here.
It's made somewhere in the Northeast,
Yeah,
I think. Or no, in Wisconsin.
It probably says on there.
Does it say in the box?
All right, so it's made in Virginia. It's just kind of a really funny thing, but however it got to Alaska, people here just kind of like took it as their own. It's very known. Pretty much every house will have Sailor Boy pilot bread, and it's we put butter on it and eat it with like stew as like your bread. We'll also like take it on the boat if you need to have something on the boat to eat just in case. People will put fish bread on it and eat it with fish bread, PB&J. I mean, there's a lot of options.
The list of toppings are pretty much endless. As you can tell, the crackers come in this nice tube. There are companies that make hard-cased tubes specifically for pilot bread crackers. So that way you can keep them on your boat or, someplace where you're traveling consistently. So pack it in your bag. The exact size of pilot bread crackers. That's how...
And it's just to keep them from getting crunched up. It's not going to prolong its life or anything. It's just sometimes if you are really rough on them, they'll start breaking. So you don't want to be like tossing them around all the time. Yeah, so that's just kind of like a funny Alaskan thing that, I never thought about growing up. I never really knew about it. I can no longer eat pilot bread because I'm gluten-free, but we still keep it around. Joe likes to have it every once in a while, and It's nice to have. You just kind of always want to have it in your house. You never know when you're gonna need it. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Let us know if we sparked some more questions. Let us know in the comments, and we'll try to write them down and keep them for the next question and answer video. And oh, we are like almost at 10,000 subscribers, which is wild. But I think we're gonna try to do a giveaway, and we're trying to figure out what we should give away.
So if you guys have any ideas on items that you may have seen around our house that you could, you know, we're not gonna give away things around our house, but we do have some pretty talented artistic friends that do Northwest Coast art. If you're interested in seeing some Northwest Coast art, we can take you on a tour around some of the art pieces that we have. And something like that could be interesting to do for a giveaway. So when I said we can, you know, if you've seen something around our house, don't ask for my TV. Thanks for watching, guys.
Thanks for watching. Have a good night, or day, or morning, or afternoon. Bye.
Sorry.
Don't cover up your face.
Well, I'm just... There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. Sailor Boy Pilot Bread. Be a sponsor.
Yeah, sponsor us.